everyone, and welcome to the second part of this video series. This is from Johanna Basford's weekly planner, the 2025 planner, and we have done the florals. Now I'm looking at my florals now, and they're quite light and they're quite scruffy. I was struggling in yesterday's video, as if you'd watched you would have heard, with being able to see what I was doing. I've come back in a new day with a better light, and now I can see that it's not perfect, but I'm not going to worry about that. You can make yours as neat as you wish, and I'm just going to move on, and we're going to do the desk to start with today. So I'm going to come in now. We're using Polychromos pencils. Oops. I think we need to come out a tad more like that. It's a little bit tricky, this desk, because the legs go right down and sort of through into the behind all the florals, so we've got to be a little bit careful. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a really light brown and just mark out all the desk area with the brown so that I can see where it is. Now I tend to do this a lot with items in colouring pages anyway, but with this particular one it's quite tricky. I'm just going to start with this far leg, and I'm just going to, brown ochre. It's useful if I tell you what I'm doing, isn't it? So I'm just going to work the colour through. I'm doing a sort of up and downy type directional movement, because I think that that might be the way the wood grain could be. I mean, wood grain doesn't have to go in this direction, but it seems to make sense a little bit. So we get to here, but I can see a line here. So that means that bit is also desk, and I can see a line there and here. So it goes all the way down, although that one sort of looks a bit thick. It's a little bit tricky to tell there. That maybe that bit shouldn't have been coloured in. It's very hard to tell. I found this tricky when I did it the first time as well. It might be easier if you're colouring the page in the book. It'd be a little bit bigger. Be able to work it out a little bit more easily. I might use a ruler on this one just to work out where the colour might need to be. So that bit, yeah, I've got one here somewhere. I rearranged my pencil case, and I'm struggling to find everything. Oh dear, sorry, bear with me a moment. Here it is. There's the old ruler. That's just quite a nice new ruler. Right, so what I'm going to do is hold it down there, and it'll give me a little clue. In fact, there's nothing marked out beyond there or down there. So I'm wondering whether, because there's no line here, maybe because that's the back leg, maybe it doesn't carry on down. Because actually looking at this one, we get it tapers there. Look, we've got like a base. So maybe that leg finishes there. Okay, we'll do the desk, we'll come and we will do the chair as well. I'm going to do them in the same colours, I think. They'll be sort of matching. The legs look so similar. So I'm thinking that probably just goes to there. Like that. Whereas this one probably carries on. It's a bit wibbly wobbly, the top of this leg. It's interesting. And I can definitely see a bit here and here and here. I'm sorry, it's I'm quite far out, so it's hard for you to see. And it goes actually all the way down to the bottom of the page there, like the other one did. I'm only thinking that that this bit that I coloured in here shouldn't be coloured in. Excuse me. Oh, I bought some new storage boxes with some of my Christmas money. Now, if you saw my, I'm going to erase that one. I think I did that wrong. I'm really sorry. If you saw my Christmas haul video, you will see that I did buy some and they were broken, unfortunately. So I've ordered some much better ones. They were like twice the price. Husband found them for me. He said these are good brand. I still can't remember what the brand name is, and so I'm looking forward to tidying up my desk. We're having, both of us actually having a really big tidy up. He emptied a shelf in here for me, so I've put all my completed books on a shelf in here, because I don't I'm struggling here. I don't tend to use them that often, so, and it's fine. I mean, this room's easily accessible anyway. So they're all next to me, and I think I might leave this as if it's a cushion. Maybe it's a different colour. And then I'm just going to colour, I'll bring it down a little bit, come in a bit now, the top of the desk. And then I'm going to use other colours, shades of brown, to add some interest. But we'll just fill this bit in first. Yeah, so he had cleared off a bit of the shelf, so I've moved all my completed books. And I've got some new pencil cases, so I've managed to stack those up a lot better in my bookshelf, and everything's getting neater. I need a couple more pencil cases, but I've got to calculate how much of Christmas money I've got left, because I've been spending it a bit madly, which has been nice. My husband was saying how he normally saves his to spend through the year on art materials, and this is his father. He's also generous, gives us some money, but he spent all his too. But never mind. Now this is quite rough, you can see that. We're going to go in with a slightly darker brown and add some shadows and different depths of colour, things like that. I'm just trying to pick what colour to use, and I think I'm going to grab this one. This is a brand new, this is Van Dyke brown. This is one of the ones that I got for Christmas, a replacement one, because mine was very short. So I'm just giving it a sharpen before I get going. So I am thinking that maybe the back of the desk will be a little bit darker than the front, so I'm just going to put a bit there like that, and here, and a bit here, and here. There'll be some shadow underneath the items, so we can work on that. And obviously we need to colour in those items too, but we'll get there. Under here. I'm already happier with this version of this page than I was with my original one. Now I think, you know, we're outside in a garden. It's likely the sun is coming down, so it's very likely that the top of the desk is going to be lighter than the side. Therefore, I'm going to put a little light layer of this across here, just where it be a bit darker. And I'm going to do the same all the way across here. Now I'm not pressing very hard. It's a really light layer. And then I'm going to darken some areas even more in a minute. There we go. It's not very even, and I'm okay with that. I'm going to put a finishing layer on top of it all in a minute. And then under this rim here, it's going to be even darker. There'll be a bit of a shadow because that desktop is sticking out, you can see here, from this piece. So it will be casting quite a deep shadow, I think, along there. So we just put that in. You can put that in with a black if you prefer. Now the drawers, I'm trying to think, maybe a little bit underneath and maybe to the side. I'm not sure really. Depends if they fit, how they fit, whether they fit tightly, whether they're pushed in, slightly sticking out. And I think this bit might have a dark bit above it, like that. Now it's all a bit messy, as I said. Oh, I'm just going to make sure that's right up there. But I'm going to go back to my original brown, the brown ochre. I'm going to go all over it again with this and try and just tidy up a little bit. So basically just layering over, burnishing, blending, that sort of thing. It doesn't really blend. Polychromos, you just sort of layer up and just make it look a bit more intense now that I've marked out where I want my colours to be. And if once you've done this you find that there isn't enough definition of colour anymore, maybe your shadows don't stand out, this bit isn't as dark as you'd like it to be, that sort of thing. You can go back over again with your Van Dyke brown, or even a darker brown. You can use a walnut brown or a umber, the dark umber, or even a dark sepia. But I'm going to think about whether I want to put some wood grain into the desk. Looking at my desk here that I'm leaning on, we've got a faint wood grain, but it's actually a laminate. This is printed on, I think that's how laminate works. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. I don't know much about it really. That's how I've always assumed it is. Just a sort of glued on printed bit. Maybe it's a thin strip of wood, I don't know. But it's always protected. It sounds like plastic. And they're protected, so you can stick them. You can put a cup on it and stuff. It doesn't leave a ring. If you get it wet, it doesn't ruin it. If it was real wood, like my other desk next door isn't laminate, and it's got all sorts of burns and marks. It's got cigarette burns in it. It's got it's quite old, not from me. It's got I'm going back to my Van Dyke brown, so I thought I might need to, and just going to fiddle and faddle a bit. Yes, and it's got ink stains, but it has got a leather top, so it's not all wood, with a wood surround. The wood's coming off. I did wax it once, but I was really upset because the wax, I couldn't get the wax off. I thought it would just soak it. I was advised by someone, just put wax on it, it'll soak up, but it didn't, and it stayed on there, and I couldn't colour on it because I didn't want the wax to get all over the books. I had to wash it off. It was it just didn't do what I expected. Maybe I just used too much, or the wrong sort of wax, I don't know, but I was not happy. I'm going to grab a dark sepia, if I can pick up the right pencil. Here it is, dark sepia, and just fill in that shadow under that desk edge, because I want it to be really dark. Just to really emphasise it. There we go. Those other shadows are fairly good. I'm doing a few of them. There we go. Now we need to work on these legs. They're going to come up, but I have to come out a tad because they go right down to the bottom. Whoops. They're so long, aren't they? It's a really interesting. There we go, desk. So I'm going to grab my Van Dyke brown now on the legs and think about what I want to do shadow wise. Now I'll make them a little bit darker where they touch the desktop, because there will be some shadow there, but also the edges, I think if we make those darker they'll look more rounded, but also in between each of these curly bits. So there's quite a lot of different things to do. So I shall firstly do the bit under here, like that. I'm going to do it on all of them at once. I think it makes it a little bit easier and helps me to remember what I'm doing. So there is all that. And then I'm going to go down the sides. Now it's quite a narrow thing, so staying in the lines has been impossible for me even already. I can see it, so I've got no excuse. It's just, you know, I'm just not very good at it. But you can't really see it that much. Don't get worried about it. There we go. And then there's no edge there. There's a little bit of edge here coming back up on this side. Now at the moment this looks a little bit odd, but it will work once we put in a bit more of our ochre. But we've just got to, it's just one step at a time. I find it easier to do this, so to approach each one at each part across all of them. There we go. I made a big mistake last night. Words. Nothing to do with colouring. I was talking to my sister, and we were talking about how, oh yes, that one doesn't go down, does it? How nice it would be to have a really big house, so everyone could stay together and have lots of space and things like that. And so I found a few places near here that were that big. Oh. I was like, wow. a big ensuite bedroom with dressing room and you know, room in there to, you know, the bedroom has its own sitting room, and you know, Regency manor houses, and £13 million, you know. So, swimming pools and sort of stable blocks which have been converted into cottages, and so, oh wow. But yes, I got very envious. I was very naughty, thinking, oh, think of all those YouTubers who make all that money, who can afford to do that. But no, realise they're few and far between. For me, I feel like it's YouTubing is like any job really. There are going to be some people who are right at the top of the field who do really well, and most people don't. It's like, let's say you worked in insurance. The CEO of the huge company makes loads, but most of the people that work there don't, you know, and that's how I feel. And sometimes I think there's a little bit of sort of luck, coincidence, or yeah. I'm just going to sharpen this pencil and then do the curly bits. And I think the shadow would be underneath them, like this. This one's a bit tricky, isn't it? Following Johanna's lines on that one. Yeah, so, and I'm a sort of firm believer in not wasting. So, if, oh, excuse me, if I had that enormous house, what would I do with all those rooms the rest of the time? You know, although if you had big bedrooms, you could use them and then just sleep several people in them when needed, you know. But yeah, it was just a fantasy dream, you know how it is sometimes. I actually said to my family the other day that I had some plans on extending our house a bit more, but we would never get planning permission to do that, because we have a garden that we never use, and I tried to get a shadow in there between those two legs, make those back ones look darker, that you know, we could extend into there and just completely add a whole sort of room width onto the back of our house. The problem is that it would infringe on our neighbours massively, in that it would block all their light, and I don't think we'd get planning to do it, because we'd have to chat with the council and find out if they approved of us doing that. And what it would mean was that my neighbour's view would be completely blocked, although blocking a view is not something you can complain about with planning, apparently. So but it wouldn't necessarily be very popular. But see, I know my husband doesn't want to move from where we are, and it is a nice area, so the only way I could get a bigger house is to expand it. We've done that several times already. I'm back to my brown ochre, and now I'm going to extend these dark areas more into the middle to sort of tidy it up a bit, and to just leave a little light area to make it look like we've just got a bit of shine in our wood down the middle. I think that's working. Yes, because I thought if I built onto the back, I could extend the kitchen a bit and have a bigger eating area. A much bigger eating area. Then if I took that extension further up, I could increase the size of our sitting room and office, which would be nice. Then further up, I could extend the size of my son's bedroom to give him more room. Then further up into the attic, I could make my son's attic bedroom bigger and use all that storage, although he said I'd want that space. It's my bedroom. My house though. but it's all a bit of a dream, isn't it? Need a lot of money to do that. My sister's like, you might as well move if you can do that. And I was like, oh, yeah, but we don't like the idea of moving, you know. I think if we had one of our neighbours that we're quite close to, if they moved out, I'd be more keen on moving out, you know. But we're in a nice location near the canal. It's lovely. We're in a town that's very friendly. You know, I do think I really should be nearer to my parents, and you know, in case they need me. But on the other hand, the town they live in, I used to really like it when I lived there, but now I've lived away and come back, I'm not so keen. I think our town is smaller, and although that means you've got less shops, it's not such a problem these days with online shopping. You know, you can just order things anyway from different shops, but it's just so much friendlier. You know, you can walk into town and you always see someone to say hello to, even if you don't know them. People are just friendly and chatty, and it's really nice. Whereas a town my parents live in is a bit bigger, so you've got more shops, which they like, and more places to eat out, which they really like doing, and that sort of thing. But you don't go out and sort of chat to people in the same sort of way. Right, now we're going to work on these details. So let's come in a little bit. Now the chair cushion, having a little think, I sort of thought, do I blend it in with the flowers? We've got all these different colours. Scratching my head a little bit, literally scratching my head a little bit, thinking, I think I don't want to pick out one of these colours to do, because that'll be too much the same. So maybe we'll do a dark blue. It'll match the flowers, but it isn't exactly the same as any of them. I think now it'll work. What have we got? I'm going to use this one actually. This is a really nice shade, I think, the Helio Blue Reddish. And I'm going to just do a light layer over the whole chair firstly, and then we'll decide on some darker areas. I'll probably use it in indigo as well, just to darken up some bits. I think it will look quite elegant in a blue. Now I haven't drawn on any wood grain onto our table in the end. I thought about it, but there's so little space on there with all the bits and pieces on the table. I think it might just end up looking a little bit crowded and messy. You certainly can if that's something you want to do. I think it could look nice, but I just don't think it's a necessary detail, if you know what I mean. So there we have our initial layer, a bit scruffy, no worries at all there for a minute. So I'm going to grab the indigo, just give it a sharpen. So here we are, dark indigo, and I'm going to mark out now. On the edges of this here, Johanna's drawn lines as if she thinks it should be darker, so I'm going to follow her expert guidance and do that there. But also under here, because I feel like this will be a sort of separate piece. So there'll be some shadow here. Now that looks a bit dark and harsh, but we're going to go back with our Helio Blue Reddish after, and go back over it. So I'm going to do the edges of each of these little sections in this darker colour to make it look like maybe the fabric is slightly pulled in, you know, as if it's stitched, or they're separate pieces. I think they're separate pieces. It might not be supposed to be fabric, of course, it might be supposed to be wood, but I think it should be comfortable. There we go. Now I'm going to return to my Helio Blue Reddish, and we're going to finish it off. So we're going to go over the top of these indigo areas, and then just fill it in more like that. Let's get that bottom bit down, there we are. Now I want the very top parts to be slightly lighter, but I want them to be a bit darker than they were, so hopefully I can just add slightly less here, but I need it to show up enough, if that makes sense. So I'm quite happy with that central bit being slightly lighter. There we go. I think it almost looks like a shell sort of pattern. There we go. I'm just adjusting myself in my chair. My back was not in the happy place. Now it is. There we go. Yeah, so I think if we can get our house a bit tidier, which is what we're trying to do at the moment, then I think that will help me feel like I don't need more space. You know, I just feel like if there's not so many little bits of things hanging around, I feel more free. Yeah. Right, so there's our chair. Now let's have a look at the desk. I'm coming closer because we don't need to see the chair now. There we go. So we have a notebook. Now what colour's paper? Yeah. So I think I'm going to make the notebook not white, because otherwise it will just look like I couldn't be bothered. So what colour could the paper be? Well, it could be slightly cream, it could be buff, it could be black, but I don't think so. It seems less likely. Could be a sort of blue, like an airmail paper colour, like light blue. I think I'm going to do it in a cream, or else it's going to blend. If I do it buff, it just blend into the desk. So I've got the cream. This is, oops. You could do it in ivory if you prefer, but I think the cream is just give us a little bit more colour. We'll be able to see it just a tad more. So I'm just putting a fairly thickish layer. Try not to push down too hard, because although I want it to show up, I'm going to put another colour on it, so I need to be careful. I want to just mark a few shadows on there. So I'm going to use a grey for that. I'm going to use the warm grey 4 and just mark in a little bit under here. Just where the pages are overlapping. It's quite tricky where they're quite narrow. Just going to try my best to just put a few marks in. Here and there. It's not perfect, but that'll do. Now, our typewriter. Now, typewriters are usually black. As far as I can remember, but they may have some silver items on them, some silver parts. So I think I'm going to do a few silvery parts, and I might actually do them with silver. Oops, silver pencil. Yeah. Now I don't use metallic pencils together with coloured pencils very often. I'm not sure how effective they are mixed up, but I'm just gonna give it a go. I can't remember, to be honest, which bits on here would be metallic and which bits wouldn't. It's a long time since I've used a typewriter. I think I'm going to do this bit here all in silver. But yeah, I remember using a typewriter as a child. I used to think it was great fun. A great novelty. I think I'm going to do this bit in silver. I'm going to keep it quite basic, just silver and black, because I can't really remember. Yeah, I used to think, how do people work with these? You know, I remember I've used an electric typewriter as well, and that seemed to make a lot more sense, in that you could, it was the step really, wasn't it, between a typewriter and a word processor, for those of you who are a certain age. Might well remember. What I'm going to do, rather than black, is I'm going to use a Paynes grey, and I'm going to use it lightly over everything and then black in some of the details so that we get a bit of contrast, because we don't want everything being exactly a really hard black, or else we won't even see what's going on. Yeah, the electric typewriter was better because you could type a line or two of text, double check it for spelling errors before you pressed enter, and then it would just type it all for you. So that was quite useful. Whereas with a conventional typewriter, of course, as I'm sure you all know, you type and then one of these, all of these have got different letters on, fill them in now, and they hit this ribbon which is inked. I guess I've done it silver, that's wrong, but never mind. And it presses the ink onto the page. And if you accidentally press several keys at once, they all come up at once and stick together and make a big mess. It was an interesting process, but my dad had 2 typewriters. I don't know why he even had one, to be honest. I'm assuming he was given them by somebody. I don't know. I used to use them as sort of toy, you know, enjoy playing with them. But as an actual thing to use, must have been quite the... I guess you would get good. His sister might have given them to him actually, because she was actually a trained secretary. So she could do shorthand and she did typing and things. And actually, when she first started using computer, she typed so loudly, because a typewriter you have to push down the keys really hard, I mean not loud. You have to push the keys down really hard so that you get a nice bang of the ink on the paper. And so anyone then using a computer would potentially do the same thing. I remember him saying to her, you don't have to press it so hard, you know, but of course old habits die hard, as they say. Right, so that's left our keys not very visible, but what I'm going to do is grab the black and colour in between. Colour the whole of this surface with black, but not the keys, and then hopefully they'll stand out a little bit. Now of course the keys would have all the letters on, Q, W, E, R, T, Y. Johanna hasn't done, oh those are the numbers, of course at the top Johanna hasn't actually done enough keys, because Q, W, E, R, T, Y, U, I, O, P, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but anyway, not that I use a keyboard a lot. I learnt how to, we used to have touch typing lessons at school. See, at primary school we had one computer in the school and no typewriters. I don't think schools ever had typewriters, because when I was at secondary school, I had my heart set on learning to, I wanted to be a secretary, and I actually bought a book which taught you how to type, touch type, because you didn't have touch typing packages, or we didn't. My school did, but we didn't at home. I'm just going to put a little bit of darker colour in here as well, but not too much. I want to, there we go, yeah. So yes, our school had these sort of touch typing packages. I'm just checking that I've done it all, where you could learn. I'm going to use the cream again for the paper that's in the typewriter. Again, not really the best colour, but yeah. But yes, so I had this book which taught you how to touch type, and you went through all these different exercises. You know how you would learn. I think you start with ASDF, I think. I can't remember. Anyway, and I was doing that a little bit. I'm going to use my grey again, the warm grey 4, just put some shadows in. Here, look. And there was a place in the town I lived which did secretarial qualifications, and I decided that I wanted to do that. And then when I spoke to my teachers at school about the fact that I wanted to be a secretary, they were horrified. And they were like, well, you've got to do something better than that. This is chromium green opaque. I'm going to do this little plant. They were like, you can't just be a secretary. At least you have to be a PA, you know, because I went to a grammar school, and they're very ambitious for us. You know, they expected everyone to go to university, expected you to, or everyone to want to go to Oxford or Cambridge. You know, not that any of us were, well, not actually. One of my friends applied to Oxford and Cambridge. This is light magenta. I'm going to do this in a pink and a purple. It'll sort of match up with our flowers at the bottom, but just different shades. But what I want to do is make it a little bit darker on the edges and then lighter towards the middle. So I wasn't allowed to think about my ambition any longer. I'm going to make this pot match this pot. I just think it will give us a sense of continuity. So my plans changed, and eventually I decided to go to university anyway, because all my friends were, and I didn't really want to get a job yet. I wasn't ready. But yeah, my sister reckoned I wanted to be a secretary because I watched too much Neighbours, soap opera Neighbours, and there was a character in there who was a secretary, and she was here's mauve, Jane she was called, if you ever watched Neighbours. And my sister used to say it was because I wanted to sit on the boss's lap. But Jane was very intelligent, and sort of, she was probably more than a secretary, she was probably more of a PA. She sort of seemed to be the brains behind the whole company that she worked for, you know, and all that sort of thing. It just seemed like a nice job, I thought. But I've never, when I did my work experience in school, I went to a big company. I'm just going to grab the green gold. It's getting small, isn't it? And do the tips of all these pencils. Yeah, when I did my work experience, I had a week at a big company, a big reinsurance company, and I got moved around from department to department to experience different departments, which was quite useful. I'm trying to decide whether to do these pencils in lots of different colours or not. I'm going to do them in lots of different shades of blue, I've decided. You don't have to do it this way. I just think it's nice to have it sort of matching. So this is the light phthalo blue I'm going to start with. Didn't do this one. I went to the secretarial department. I sat with the secretaries. There was like a, I don't know what to do with that end. I think I'm going to do it silver. I'm thinking of the Polychromos pencils. They have gold ends. I'm going to do this one silver. And this is where I use the electric typewriter in their department. I've grabbed the light ultramarine. I'm just sharpening it. And I had a report after by the company, and they said they were surprised at how unkeen I was to do anything in their department, because they knew that it was what I wanted to do. But I was really shy and frightened. I was petrified, actually. That was the longest week of my whole life, going into a company, and it wasn't like I could settle, because I spent half a day in each department, so I didn't really have a chance to, you know, get to know anybody, or, you know, until I got moved to somewhere else. So it was really difficult. And as I say, I was really shy. This is Prussian blue. And so I didn't want to talk to anyone more than I had to. So I didn't ask. They were, oh, what questions have you got? And I was like, I don't know. What sort of questions am I supposed to ask? Indanthrene blue. So it was, and it was quite disappointing. But what I was very, very lucky, because I'm an identical twin, and I'm using the phthalo blue for the last one. When I had my end of year report, which was sent to my university, I'm going to do this key. I'm going to colour this key in silver, just because we've done quite a bit of different silvers, it'll match. And that the head of our sixth form wrote the report, and my sister did her work experience in a school. She wanted to be a teacher, and she got a fantastic report from the school. I'm going to use the middle purple pink for the ribbon. And when they wrote our reports, they got them around the wrong way. So they gave me her really good report and her my really bad one. So she complained to the school and they changed hers, but they didn't change mine. So I had this really good report, which I was very fortunate to have. I'm looking at this tape. Can you see this tiny piece of tape? I'm thinking, if it's like a sticky tape's normally see-through, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the brown ochre to start with and do it really lightly here, like that. Then I'm going to get a bit of the middle purple pink and do a light line across where it's holding that. You can see that. And then I'm going to get my white and I'm just going to smudge it all over it to just fade it down a bit. So yes, I had this report that wasn't really mine, but the school didn't change it, so it wasn't much I could do. Right, I'm just having a bit of a shufty round of my pencils because they're in my way. And then we're going to look at these butterflies. Moths. Butterflies or moths? Don't know. I think that's all of them. Now, for their little bodies, I'm going to use a grey. I'm going to do them all the same. I haven't quite decided how yet. So coal grey 4, just block it in. I'm just thinking about what I'm going to do for my sky, and therefore how I'm going to colour these in, because I need them to show up. Now I'll probably do some green down here moving into blue for my sky. So that means that I don't want to do them blue, but I mean, we've got quite a lot of blue here, so I'm thinking maybe a pink or purple. We could do a bit of both. Let's just sweep that off. It's got a bit messy. It's actually a bit smudgy, but that's okay. Once we put our background on, we won't see. Maybe I'll do a pink and a blue. So I think I'm going to go with brights. So I've got this really bright fuchsia. I'm going to do some in fuchsia. I'm going to try and make them a little bit darker near the body and lighter near the tip, but they're quite small. Now we can't just do every other one because it's going to look a bit contrived. So I'm going to do that one as well, like that. And on the other side I'll have to put 2 purples together. And we'll do that one pink. Wow, they're quite bright, aren't they? I don't think they need to look realistic, they're so small. We'll do that one. What I tend to usually do with butterflies is do a black outline around the wing and then put some white dots on them, because I feel that looks a little bit more realistic, in quotation marks. I'm going to use the purple violet for the others. It's the only one we haven't used. There aren't a big range of violets. It's quite rare in a pencil set to have a big range of violety blues, violety purples sort of thing. I think Castle Art Soft Touch are the ones that got the most. There we go. So I never did end up ever doing secretarial work. I've done receptionist work, I've done administration, so they're similar-ish. I did have a job as a PA actually, but I didn't like it. I found it really lonely because there was no boss. My boss wasn't around. I never met them. It was really weird. I was temping. Right, time for some soft pastels. Let me just come out a little bit so you can see them. we go. These are my Mungyo soft pastels that I always use. Well, I do have some pan pastels, but these are what I'm using today. There we go. My cotton pads. Now, let's grab a clean one. There we go. What I'm going to do first is grab some scrap paper. Whoa! Oops. There was a cable on top of that piece of paper and it's fallen down on the floor. I don't know why it was left on top of the piece of paper. There you go. So put the paper there to stop it getting all round the pages of the book. Okay, now this bottom piece here I want green. So I'm going to use quite a light green. I think this one is really light. I don't know, I've barely used it by the looks of it. Let me look at it. I think it's neon. Yeah, that's a bit bright, isn't it? Okay, I can see why I haven't used it. We'll go for this one that's massively used. That's better. And just put some down here. Now I'm going right over everything. Over the whole flowers, everything. It's just too difficult not to. There's too much going on. Now if you've coloured your flowers better than me and they're bright, they won't fade back as much as mine are. I just didn't colour them that brightly. Now I don't want this to go too far beyond my flowers because I want to merge into a blue quite soon, but it can look a bit like there's grass there, you know, as it sort of pops up behind. Just get it fairly even. Now it's coming out along the edges here, which isn't what I want, but what I can erase that after. It's easier. Then our sky, you can use a cloud stencil if you want. I'm not going to. I'm just going to go straight into a blue. Oops, I'm on the piece of where I had some green. I don't want green. Here we go, blue. And just start mixing the blue in. I'm just going to do a fairly light layer of blue. Now, I don't know how visible it's going to be on camera, but it's just a simple background. And then we've got this line around the edge, the sort of frame line. Now you can do that anyhow. I'm going to do it in a pen. I want it to be quite dark so it really creates quite the border. And I'm thinking about colours. I think I'm going to do it in silver, because we've got bits of silver in the picture. I think it will finish it off nicely. So before I do that, I'm going to erase the bits where I've gone over the edge. It's really tricky doing this because I need to hold the paper. I guess I've hold it there. So I'm going to now your sky doesn't need to be even. If you look at a sky normally, they're not an even blue colour. So I'm trying not to make it too even, but also not to look like I've accidentally left patches. It's tricky, but I'm getting there. I think I'm almost there. There we go. I'm happy with that. But what I'm going to do is get my small eraser and just erase these areas where I've gone out of the lines before I do my border. There we go. So I wonder whether everyone else became what they wanted to be. I remember when I first started secondary school, I had no idea what I wanted to be. And then, it's really dirty down here, we mixed with a boys' school. And all the boys seemed to know what they wanted to be when they grew up. Whereas none of the girls seemed to have any idea. And I found that really surprising. And I don't know whether that's still something that happens now, whether boys are better at knowing what they want to do. I'm just filling in a few bits where looks a bit empty. There we go. It's just being fussy. So I'm going to use a silver pen. I'm going to use one of these. I've got these metallic jelly rolls now. my silver is nearly run out, but I've got a new one. These, the silver and gold, the two ends, are the ones that I use the most. And I got a spare one of each for Christmas. So this is what I'm going to use here. Yeah, the boys all seemed to know what they wanted to do, and the girls didn't. I don't know whether it was something they were taught, that they had a class where they had to decide, and things like that. I remember us having a big book made by a company called Prospects, who actually now have a very good website, I should have to say. And it would have a list of all the jobs, apparently every job, which was laughable because it didn't. It had things like a pig hand and a cow hand, and teachers and various things, but you know, I'm sure it didn't have every possible job. I don't remember there being a shop assistant. Probably was. It was better. There certainly wasn't a YouTuber back in the days before the internet. Anyway, and we also, I remember there was, you could take a sort of quiz to find out what job you were most suitable for, and we did it as a class, and teacher did it too. And our teacher, you had to put in your qualifications and your sort of likes and dislikes, and then it would come up with the jobs that were most suitable for you. And our teacher, our form teacher, was a chemistry teacher, and it did come up with teacher for him, but not chemistry. I think it said English teacher. But what was interesting was every single one of us were told that we would be able to be, we could be a teacher, which was quite interesting, but all in different areas depending on which subjects were our favourites. You know, I don't normally do this, do I? Turn the book around. It's because we've got all this wet pastel. Now, one final step for this picture, if you wish, is to get a white pen and add some white dots in areas. And I'm looking at this, wondering whether it needs it or not. And I think no. I'm actually thinking I'm quite happy with it as it is. I'm just going to take that piece of paper out. I managed to not make it too messy today. But there is the final picture. And I have to say, I don't normally like this page. I don't like to say that about pages, particularly Johanna pages, as she's my sort of hero and I love all her work. But this page has never appealed to me. But now I've done it like this, I actually really like it. So I'm really pleased. So there we go. But thank you very much all for watching. I hope you have a super rest of your Tuesday, if it is Tuesday when you're watching this. And yes, happy colouring.